Okay, so this is day 31 of my sales book challenge where I plan to sell my books from $0 to $1 million in 300 days. So if you've been wondering where I've been, because I think I just made 2 videos, the first day and then day 8. So I spent the last 21 days just on research. Because if you want to take on such a project, the first thing you've got to do is to research. You must strategize on how you're going to achieve your goal. And book sales are not candy sales. They are not that easy, because you have a very limited audience, a very specific audience to attend to. It's not like going to the movies or buying cars or fashion wear and all that. Book sales is a targeted kind of market. You've got to know what you're doing. So I've been researching, and here's how I'm going to go about it. Okay, so to sell my books from $0 to $1 million, there's so many ways I could go about it. I could, for example, sell 1 million books at $1. I could sell 500,000 books at $2. I could sell 250,000 books at $4, 200,000 books at $5 a piece. I could go to 100,000 books at $10 a piece. I could do 50,000 books, at $20. I could do 40,000 books at $25. Goes down all the way to 10,000 books at $100. So to achieve any of these goals, I asked ChatGPT and Gemini independently what I should do to be able to sell 1 million books. And they each gave me their independent plans. When they were done, I now asked each one of them to tell me realistically, to be very real with me and tell me point blank, if it was achievable. And they both said no, it wasn't achievable, and that even if I followed their plans, at best I could do 50,000 copies, to 100,000 copies of books. And this plan included me having about 50,000 to 100,000 marketing budget in dollars. And when I told them that I didn't want to invest any amount of money, I just wanted organic sales, the result was that it was practically impossible, and that most authors sold 5,000 books at a time and no more. There are very few authors who sold more than 5,000 books. So I took the 50,000 copies they told me, which meant that if I sold 50,000 copies of my books at $20, I could get $1 million dollars sold. I even did one better. I said, okay, I was going to go lower than the 50,000, which was the low end. I'll try 40,000 books at $25. Now, books do not normally sell at $25. Most of the paperback books you're going to see will be for $5, $6, $7. However, to go around it, what it meant was that if I was going to target 40,000 books at $25, I could write 5 different books at $5 a piece. So if I did 5 different books at $5 a piece, that's $25, and I had to sell 40,000 copies of each of the 5 books to get my 1 million in sales. So having settled for that, I now decided, how am I going to sell 40,000 copies of each? I had to go to people, who had done it before. So I went to social media, YouTube, TikTok, and I started looking for people, for sales gurus, not just people who taught sales, but people who had actually sold, or people who are very good in sales, who are living the life of sales. And I did binge watch so many videos of so many salespeople, and finally narrowed down to 3 people who I now followed and binge watched all their videos, if not all, most of their videos, because I needed to understand how to achieve this goal. So the 3 of them are Alex Hormozi, Myron Golden, and Gary Vee. And now I'm going to tell you why I settled for these 3. First, I'm going to start with Alex Hormozi. This dude sold 2.7 million books, made $83 million in 24 hours, from the sales of his newly launched book. And he set a world record doing that, most sales in one day, $83 million from his book sales in one day. So Alex Hormozi's sales strategy is basically about offers, making people an offer they can't refuse. In other words, whatever product you have, find an offer that you make to your potential buyers and make that offer so irresistible that they'd be foolish to say no, which was the exact strategy he employed to make the $83 million in one day that he did, selling 2.7 million. But basically, it's all about how to make irresistible offers, which are used to sell your product. So the next is Myron Golden. Myron is basically about sales psychology, how to psych people into buying your products. And he doesn't believe you should waste your time with selling to poor people. He believes that instead of looking for 1 million people, to sell a product to at $1, for example, look for 10,000 people and sell it to them at $100. It's easier, it's more effective, He's that kind of salesperson. He also believes in using some form of psychological scarcity in making people look for your product. If you give the impression that your product is scarce, then people are going to rush, for it. He plays the mind game in his sale. In his lessons, if, for example, I come to you and say, I'm selling this product at $10, and you say, how about it? I'll say, it's actually $15, but I gave you a discount. But since you didn't want it, well, whenever you want it, it's $15. And you see the person telling you, $10 is fine. So it's a mind game for him, and it works for him. His built companies worth hundreds of millions just by using this strategy. And also, Myron believes that instead of you scouting for buyers of your product, position your product in such a way that buyers will find you when they want that product. In other words, you are not the one looking for them. They are the ones looking for you because they want the product in the first place. But sometimes buyers want a product, they don't know where to get it from. So make sure your product is where your buyers will find it. So that's Myron for you. Then finally is Gary Vee. Gary Vee is different from the three of them. Gary Vee preaches relentless. The key word is relentless content creation to push your product using social media. Just bamboozle your buyers with your products in such a way that they see you and your products continually. Everywhere they turn, they see you and your product everywhere. And they just have to buy you. So these three people, gave me an insight of exactly what to do, and I have strategized on what to do, of course subject to improvement as I go along, but this is just basically what I've been doing the past 3 weeks. So they all have their different styles and strategies, but one thing that they all agree on is that people don't buy products, people buy emotions, people buy results, and people buy brands. So the first challenge from all I've learned is that I have to build a brand. I have to build a followership, which is why even ChatGPT told me that I was going to sell between 50 and 100,000 copies, even if I did all they wanted, because 1, I don't have a brand. 2, I don't have a followership. 3, I don't even have a marketing budget that could force people into doing all these things. So first I have to build a brand, which is why I've decided that from the 1st of April, which is tomorrow, to the April is 30 days, to the 30th of April, all I'm going to do is post content to build a brand and see if the needle on my social media followership is going to change. Okay, so if you're watching this, just click on that follow button. However, building a brand is not easy. It's like getting people to know you, not just to know you, people to trust you. Trust you in such a way that when you tell them that this product is good, they buy it. So for me to be able to achieve this brand building with respect to me being an author and my books, through social media, of course, employing the lessons I learned from these three people means that I have to post consistently. And how consistently should I post? This I have to post a minimum of 10 times daily, and that is at the low end. Actually, Alex Hormozi and Gary believe that for one to be impactful as quickly as I want to be, then I have to be doing at least 300 to 400 posts a week. In other words, I should be doing like 40 to 60 posts a day. I'm going to challenge myself to do 10 posts a day. I'll start with 10 posts a day. I've not been able to do a post a day in my life before. So even doing these 10 posts a day consistently is a big challenge for me, but that is exactly what I'm going to do in the next 30 days, just trying to be consistent with 10 posts a day for 30 days. And once I'm able to achieve that, then other things will follow. So let's see how it goes.